welcome to the Scene Weekly podcast, where we harken back to our college debate days and pick two movies of the same theme as we light up our sparklers, grab a hot dog or two, and shoot off bottle rockets and M80s like we have 20 fingers and toes. This week's episode is focused on 4th of July blockbusters with Independence Day fitting ever so nicely into the jaws of fireworks to come. Come join Jonathan and Steven for another week of desirably less plot chatter and hopefully more film banter. We are Scene Weekly, and welcome to our world. That was
unexpected. That was great.
That was a disaster.
Yeah. It actually looked really good.
It's everywhere. Yeah. Happy 4th of July early. Oh, it's even in my drink. Do you think you can drink this? You can probably drink this, right?
Yeah, it's probably fine. Do you purchase actual fireworks on the 4th of July? Are you allowed to do that in New
York? No, you're not allowed to. But
I bet people still do.
Abides by those rules? No one.
Yeah.
So this is a disaster. Yeah. Anyway, 4th of July, very fun time. I remember getting hit by a bottle rocket. Speaking of bottle rockets, and it didn't feel good as like a 6-year-old, I would say.
I'm sure.
Maybe 6. My neighbor, Sean Jackson, over in Ocala, Florida, just shot it directly at me. Why would you shoot a bottle rocket at a kid? These are different times, I guess. And it hit me in the ankle. And I was like, that's not fun. And it popped on my ankle. But nonetheless, love bottle rockets. Probably my number one firework. M80s
okay.
or those. You probably like sparklers.
I'm a sparkler guy. You're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like the snaps. Are those like fireworks? There's not fireworks. Are those defined as fireworks?
The ones that you just throw on the ground and they pop?
I love them. Yeah, because like I would use them and put like in closets. So like if people walked in, then they would just be scared shitless, you know? It's more of like a frightening. Like you're not expecting that to happen as you take a step into the closet trying to get your shirt for the day, possibly a Star-Spangled Banner. But nonetheless,
represent.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about some blockbusters that take place on America's birthday, Independence Day.
Yeah.
So we got two heavyweight hitters that kind of they redefined. Well, I think both of them, but one of them definitely redefined what movies can do, especially at the box office. It kind of changed the whole dynamic of, opening weekend and the blockbuster idea. And the other one kind of brought that back too in the mid 90s. But yeah, I mean, these aren't comic book movies. These aren't sequels. These are original blockbuster movies that we don't really get much of nowadays.
You also don't get Blockbuster much these days unless you live in Portland. So curious, did you go to Blockbuster as a kid?
Blockbuster was a highlight of the week or the month whenever we went, and I was the type of person I would like to. It would take me about 30 to 45 minutes to find the film that I want. Like my sister, my mom would get so mad at me because they'd be like, "Come on, just pick something," and you'd have to go and find the new releases, and sometimes they're not there, so you have to go and see the return section and see if you can find the one that just got returned. So yeah, I love Blockbuster. I had some late fees too.
Yeah, I know. Dyslexia has always like really hampered you, and returning things. Spelling return is more of like giving it to you. There's a joke in there somewhere if you think hard enough. But yeah, I like this. I completely overlooked it. Like 2 months ago, I was like, oh yeah, 4th of July movies would be fantastic. And then last week was pitching you a new idea, and then you're like, no, 4th of July. I was like, oh yes, we do have to do 4th of July movies. There's a ton, the endless supply, things that are set on 4th of July, which there's an endless supply of, let's be honest. But we chose the big blockbuster films, and I think these 4th of July blockbuster films. I mean, you could have gone any direction, but I think they kind of they get married to each other to some extent, like you're saying. But what are your thoughts on M80s, and how much experience do you have with them? Because have you ever exploded frogs? Because I didn't, just to be clear, not to set you up, just like present you with PETA coming at your door. I've never blown up animals or creatures What is your experience with M80s? Do you ever blow up any toilets?
No, I wasn't. I never really had like the whole fireworks at the house. It was always my parents, again, musicians in the Air Force. So our 4th of July celebration would typically be at an Air Force base with the band playing, and there would be a fireworks show that we would get to see and watch. And there would be no M80s or fireworks at the house. We didn't do that kind of
Huh.
thing.
You just got to see like airplanes blowing shit up.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Which was fun. What about you? It seems like you had these these explosives at hand.
Old Jamie Jackson and Sean Jackson directly next door, they would supply themselves with a truckload of I don't know how much they spent, and as a kid I was small, so like the back of a truck was just completely filled with probably $1,000 back then of like fireworks. And like I think they spent their entire life savings every year on fireworks because it was like hours upon hours upon hours. But one of the most fun experiences. There's like stuff all over my walls. This is wild. That thing is powerful. It says do it indoors or outdoors. Do not recommend doing it indoors for that matter. And it was just constant. We had constant supply, and basically, when you would run out, we'd go back to this truck, and we would sneak in and just sneak by and just take them because it was a whole truck full every year. Uh, don't recall ever buying them. With that being said, but we just we used our neighbors basically, and at that moment, I mean, this is Florida, so it's like you can always you've always been able to do whatever you want in Florida, but imagine the 1980s in Florida.
Yeah.
Rules. There's
There's no rules.
there's no rules, and it's definitely like the cops were called. They never came, and if they did come, which I like, maybe in a nearby neighborhood they would come, but like there's just too many things to do. People drunk driving, things like that, which I didn't know of at the time. But very fun time, very hot time, but very fun time in Florida.
Nothing caught on fire.
No, but I think I talked on this podcast once. I accidentally caught a field, like a 5 acre field on fire. It wasn't 5 acres of burning, but it was about, it was a lot. It was too much. It got put out somehow
Was it
randomly.
from a firework?
Yeah, it was. And the firework went off. And then the whole field seemingly was going to take off too. And then I didn't have to stop, drop, and roll, but like my friend and I, Chris, we put it out. And we smelled like smoke for a long period of time. We tried to explain that to his family, and they weren't having it. I can't remember the excuse we said. Something about exhaust. We were riding our four wheelers. Smells
Now
like
you
burning wood.
now you living in Florida, you're obviously more inland, but you went to the beach, St. Augustine. Were you ever afraid of sharks? Did that fear ever seep into your mind?
What is a shark? I've never heard of a shark.
You've never heard of a shark?
Mm.
Well, I think you just watched a movie all about a shark where you didn't see much of it until the end. But it's
Mm.
one of those
Is that a shark? That
yeah,
thing with teeth?
with teeth, yes.
Orange juice. Here we go again. I think we have this similar cups here. I as a kid, was I scared of sharks? Was I even told about sharks? Like just going to the water? Not really. No. I would say I was more concerned, and my family made it more known about like rip currents, I would say. Things that are more likely to happen. Just as like we weren't a family that were playing the lotto often, ever. So I wasn't really afraid of sharks, but I probably would have been had I known about sharks
Yeah,
underneath me. Yeah, I would say later in life though, I got a I don't like open water. I would say it's definitely one of my fears. It is one of my
interesting.
fears. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of open water, including even in lakes. Not a fan.
Don't like it, huh?
It's weird. Yeah, it's something that is like grew on me
Interesting.
like an abscess.
I think if I watched this film Jaws as a child, because I mean, it's rated PG, which is insane. Um, and a lot of people did watch it as children in the 80s, 70s. And it scarred a lot of people. A lot of people became fearful of the water because of this movie. I think
Yeah,
that's
this is
interesting.
my mom's era of like, I mean, she was already grown up, of course, but like it freaked the fuck out of everybody. Like everyone on any beach in Florida was like, "What is there?" And any fish that would be next to your foot. And my mom and I talked about this a lot as a kid. Any fish next to your foot, oh, what, what? So people were freaking out for like a solid 2 years, and then I had no idea there was a Jaws 2 and 3.
Yeah, neither
I
did
don't know if
I.
there's a 4, and I feel like just with if you make one shark movie, you got to make like 17. So Sharknado is of the same vein, which is just strange, but nonetheless, um, it scared the living bejesus out of everybody for
Yeah.
an extended period of time, and you don't really get that. Like horror films, like Blair Witch, just people going into the woods, that scared people for a long period of time too. I can't really think. What is that Texas Chainsaw Massacre scared people.
Yeah.
Evil Dead scared people.
The Ring?
There's The Ring, not in the capacity of Jaws,
No.
not in the capacity of like, I guess you have like a thing such as the ocean, so it's gonna like repeat itself. Whereas like just going into a random closet, if you don't have a videotape like The Ring, you can't replicate it. Whereas the ocean
Right.
can be replicated over and over, and then going into a forest over and over.
There's
So if
always
you
more
have that,
sharks in the water.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but were you scared of sharks? I wasn't as a kid. I am now, I guess.
No, one, yeah, I never saw the movie Jaws when I was a kid. But two, no, like I lived in Hawaii. Never. The only time that I was like fearful of like a shark was when I was in Costa Rica and I split my head open surfing.
Mm.
And I know sharks kind of go after blood, and I was pretty far out, and that's the
Far
only time
out,
I was like
bro.
far out. That was the only time I was like kind of panicked, like I need to get to shore or I'm
Yeah.
going to die. So, but
Did
yeah,
you really
not
think
not.
you're gonna die?
I didn't know what. I mean, there was a kid swimming next to me surfing, and he saw, and he goes sangre, sangre. That means blood. And I look at my hand; it's just all covered in blood. Yeah, it was.
Is that the
It was probably
scariest moment of your life? Waiting for Jaws. It could be like your biography or your like movie title.
epitaph.
Waiting for Jaws.
Yeah, waiting.
Like
I mean,
was that the scariest moment of your life?
yeah, that and when I got held up at gunpoint, those were the two like kind of like the life flash before your eyes. Like, is this it? Is this how I'm gonna go?
Yeah, I've
But
been held
I
up at gunpoint,
persevered.
and I've been held up at gunpoint in North Korea by 3 guards for trying to take a picture.
The
Um,
DMZ.
no, it wasn't the DMZ. It was proper North Korea. I didn't infiltrate my way in, but it's called the Kungamsan mountain region that closed a year after I had been there, because a South Korean woman who was trying to also take a picture got shot and killed.
Oh
I
wow.
basically did the same thing, but maybe my being white or whatever the reason, lucky, I get shot and killed. But I also didn't get pistol whipped, and my sack full got taken, which
Yeah, that was
insult to injury. You
should
can't
probably.
put any jaws on that bag.
Yeah, probably still need therapy from that night. But we're talking blockbusters here. We're talking Independence Day
Yeah,
and Jaws. When did you see Jaws for the first time?
as a kid. So before we went to the beach for the first time, my mom thought it would be a good idea to show me Jaws. No, it was probably, I don't ever remember being told about Jaws, like, or I should say, sharks that can kill you. Man, ever. I probably learned it in like nursery school or something along those lines with the different insane songs that we provide for children these days, such as London Bridge is still falling down. It's taken a really long time, but I I saw it early with my mom because I remember her telling me stories of how freaked out people were. Um, but I can't remember exactly when. I would have to say it was probably around 10 or 11, if memory
Oh
serves.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't believe this movie. I mean, PG-13 wasn't a thing back then, but I mean, you have some of the most gruesome deaths and children being killed, and first
Yeah.
the first scene, and a naked lady running into the beach, like PG, mind you. Like that's It's a different time we lived in back then.
It's better time, huh? Ratings were a little different. I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's by any standard of like not killing the kid, sharks don't care. And so like effectively Spielberg didn't care in terms of directing children dying. Um, Children dying at the hands of humans is always going to turn off people, and any children dying, any child dying. But like, dude, everyone got it. Like everyone. I mean, that shark was on a rampage. I haven't seen this in a while. That shark was on a goddamn rampage, and
Somebody
there's
pissed that
only one
shark
way to
off.
say it. Yeah, like imagine, no, like truly imagine if that shark and it was all sharks, and basically going into the let's say the numbers are like this was shot I think in like off the coast of Massachusetts in like Cape Cod area, but it's set in New
Martha's
York.
Vineyard, yeah.
It's set on Long Island, down the street from me, and like we imagine you got one on Long Island, right? And just that one, and it's just not in that single town. It can roam. So let's just call it 100 miles of roaming, but the potential is there to get got. Do you go in the water? And what psychopath does? Would you?
Not even with a cage around me would I go in the water.
Yeah, yeah, dude, that shark doesn't give a Jaws doesn't give a fuck about cages. I mean, it's interesting like how quickly people not adapted, the lack of adaptation, just quickly went back into the water after just people got murked.
It's summertime and they're a summertime town and they need those beach dollars. I mean,
still, like Tobe Beach is the closest to me. If somebody got killed at Tobe Beach, I'm at least going to not go to Tobe Beach for the rest of that summer.
go to a pool if you really want to swim.
Yeah,
Know?
Like, I don't need to. Yeah, but I'm not there for. Are you there for swimming? I'm not there for swimming. I'm there for like the sand and the beach rays, which you can get from the sun, but anywhere. But the sand is not there. Maybe a nice hamburger. Hamburgers on the beach. Come on, what's better than that? Are you a fried chicken guy on the beach?
No, I usually do like the sub sandwiches. Like I go to like Jimmy John's or something like that, or I make my own
Yeah.
sandwich. I just love a nice cold cut bag of chips on the beach.
What's your favorite sandwich, if you don't mind me asking? If you had to make the perfect sandwich, what would it be for a beach type weather day?
Oh, beach type weather. It would be like a California club. I wouldn't do too heavy on like I couldn't do like an Italian. It's just too heavy. But I would do like a California club, little avocado, turkey, bacon, mayonnaise, white bread. Yum, delicious. And with salt and vinegar chips
Mm.
or
Kettle?
kettle, yeah. Um,
Gotta be.
Sour cream and onion. It's good
Mm.
too.
Okay. Like a
What about
ruffled
you?
sour cream and onion?
Yeah, I like the ruffles.
I don't like sandwiches, generally speaking. I so I wouldn't go with the sandwich route. To be fair, I don't really like eating on the beach.
Too much
But if I
sand
had,
everywhere.
yeah, I don't know. I can't really. I've been on a diet for like 3 weeks, so like I don't even like to entertain this idea because then I'm just gonna turn into
Just
Fat
a
John
boiled egg on the beach.
and start going crazy. I'll go with sandwiches. If I had to, even though I don't particularly like sandwiches. So if I were to go to a sandwich, I would do a baguette with some mayonnaise, oil and vinegar, salt and pepper, lots of pickles, um, and probably do ham and Swiss. I don't like turkey. Ham Swiss, and add a couple here and there of some prosciutto.
Oh,
That would
prosciutto.
that'd probably be my and some arugula. That'd probably be my jam.
Any chips? Any crunch next to that?
Definitely to a T. Yours salt and vinegar kettles. Just that would be that I have gained over the last year. I didn't gain, but I would just stay steady because I run a lot. But like the amount of calories that I've had, I used to have one of those the family size versions of the kettle, and I'll do all kettles, by the way. There's some better than others. Some are more salty. We've had them all. I would eat a whole bag of a family size bag a night, and then go into 3 ice cream sandwiches, and then I would want a transition back to the chips, but I already had too much salt, and then I would transition like to something else, like popcorn. Anyway, going
You're getting
way off
hungry?
topic. I am getting hungry, but that sandwich would probably be my jam for a beach type day.
Yeah, I got it.
So we're Jawsing it up. Why don't we get some backstory in Jaws?
Okay,
I would love
sure.
it.
So, I'm doing Jaws.
Oh, do you want to go second?
Well, no, this is the thing. For some reason in my head, I had Independence Day as my movie this whole time.
What?
Yes.
What?
We got our wires crossed here, Jonathan, because we don't text that much about what we're actually going to talk about.
How's this possible?
I don't know, but I can go with Jaws. I'm down with it. I can always do a quick transition. Jaws.
How's this possible?
Is what I'm telling you right now. Anything is possible with me in the mix. All right, Jaws is a 1975 American thriller. It's directed by Steven Spielberg and based on the 1974 novel by Peter Benchley. It stars Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss. This movie was a modest hit. It had a budget of $9 million. Box office, $476.5 million. One of the biggest box office in history. And it was interesting how they released this. They were going to do this big, wide release. And then right before that happened, one of the executives with the studio said, no, let's cut that in half. That way people have to drive 45 minutes to go see this movie. They can't just go to their local multiplex or whatever it was, because they wanted this word of mouth. They wanted this like congregation of people to come in and see this movie, because this movie is a movie that you need to see with a large group of people. It just enhances the experience.
Yeah. Could you imagine if they re-released this movie?
Oh, I'm sure they have. It's definitely in rep theaters, but I don't think it's been like a wide release like Jaws 50th anniversary or whatever it is. We're not quite there yet. But I bet it will be released. And it's an amazing movie to see on the big screen. I have never seen it on the big screen, but I can only imagine what it would be like. But plot of Jaws. We're on Amity Island. It's a.
Do you want me to do Jaws? I can easily do Jaws if you like.
No, I got it. We're on Amity Island.
I said you should have a lighter week, meaning you just watched Jaws, so you can just hang out with Independence Day, and you've already watched Jaws, so you know it well.
I do know it well. I actually watched it. I watched Jaws 2.5 times this week.
Did you watch it? Wait, so you watched it recently for the first time, very recent, and then you rewatched it again and a half?
Yeah.
Why don't you just watch other movies?
Because I really enjoyed this movie, and I really like seeing a young Spielberg
child get murdered.
No, the direction of Steven Spielberg. I also watched his first movie, which was a TV movie called Duel. I don't know if you've seen it, but
I've never even heard of it. What is
that? It's one of the reasons why he was picked to make Jaws. They passed.
Oh, really?
They had a few other directors wanting to direct Jaws. Some people passed on it, and Spielberg heard about it, and he's like, he wanted to do it. So Duel was this 1971 made for TV movie. And it's pretty simple premise where this guy is driving on a highway and passes this big kind of semi truck tanker.
Yeah.
And there's just this road rage filled throughout. You never see who's inside the big truck, but this truck is just haunting him down the road, doing all of these crazy things. And it's basically instead of a truck, now we have a shark in place of that. So
candy cane. That's interesting. I've never heard of Duel, but you do sound like you're well prepared for Jaws. So that's
I I am. I don't really have the notes in front of me, but I do have.
Oh, I can carry this. Don't worry.
I do have a quick memory of what happened here. So we have Roy Scheider. He is the police sheriff of the town, and he's an outsider. And I love how they kind of show you that he's an outsider without explicitly telling you, just the way that he's trying to do like the accent and things like that. But he's not an islander. But the film opens up with some young teens around a campfire on the beach, smoking J's, listening to music, and a girl goes and skinny dips in the water with this guy chasing her,
Very
frolicking
quickly.
very quickly.
They were frolicking.
Taking off the clothes, skinny dipping, going down with just a one leg into the moonlight. Beautiful shot, but then it turns dark. Dun-dun,
Oh, and the night comes.
dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. That's all we hear. We don't see the actual shark, and this is really important for a number of reasons. But we hear the music. We hear the John Williams score. And it's a brilliant way to bring forth the idea and put in the imagination of the viewer of something nefarious coming. And something does come, and that girl just gets twisted and turned and pulled, and she's screaming. And the guy that was supposed to, frolic in the water with her is passed out on the beach and doesn't see anything.
Yeah.
One of the best opening scenes in any movie, I think, in history.
I'd like to see the number of people who walked out right then and there. Like, no, I can't do this.
Like what did I get myself into?
Yeah, this is gonna ruin my idea of the water.
Yeah,
it's an interesting moment. It's like, I feel like in the 70s they were just trying to tell people, children specifically, of course, that you guys might have your proclivities toward doing weird things and getting naked and running in the water, but you know what's out there? Jaws. Don't do it, kids. Don't do it. I feel like it's like the underlying notion of who we are as parents, I guess, to some extent. By the way, you didn't notice that I have a new poster up.
I did. Yeah, I did.
I didn't see that.
I was hoping for a Jaws poster, but I guess that's it's not.
Yeah, well,
not there
each
yet.
of these costs a lot for the framing, primarily. Each of these don't cost a lot. The framing went a little crazy. I got a few more up my sleeve. It's the last I'll note of it. But the opener is fantastic. I miss those moments of, I mean, old Milton and I, we've hung out on the beach and passed out just as like that boy did, almost to a T, except we didn't have a person getting eaten alive. But I thought it was something's wrong with me or not. I think a lot of people probably laughed. Like, I was laughing at the opener of her like being possessed by the water devil, Jaws.
Yeah,
at the beginning, it's just like the way that Spielberg directed that to happen was hysterical to me. But like, if you really think about it, like, how else would you do it in that time period? Like, there's no CGI, so it's tough.
Well,
and also,
they basically tied ropes to her and basically were pulling them on the shore to make her move like that. Like, very, very creative way to film this. And this is to note. You have Steven Spielberg, kind of a complete unknown, 26, 27 years old.
That's crazy. My God.
Directing this movie, went way over budget, over time. Spielberg has even said this, like, what a dumb idea to actually film this on the ocean. But it was, it was brilliant, but it made it so difficult. They would go out for 12-hour days to shoot and only actually shoot for 3 or 4 hours because they had to keep changing the rigs. Salt water would get on the cameras. They would have to do this, like that, like a boat would sink. All of these things. It was a nightmare for the crew. It was a nightmare production. They didn't respect Steven Spielberg. They kept making fun of him, which, I mean, that's insane, but it also makes sense. Like, these are 40, 50-year-old actors that been in Hollywood for a long time. And this 27-year-old with like these zippy pants and bell bottoms trying to tell you what to do. They just thought this movie was going to be shit. Like Richard Dreyfuss was like, "What am I doing here? This movie's going to be shit."
And what did he say after? Like, oh, look at that.
This is an
Fantastic job.
amazing movie.
One of the best ever. Life changing.
Yeah, life changing. Yeah.
Do you know what hit me early on in the movie?
What's that?
Was white picket fences. And
Yeah.
I really enjoy white picket fences. And
Well,
not
there's
because like
the idea behind it, or
no, that's what I was going to get to before I was really interrupted.
rudely.
White picket fences just look good. With the counterpart of its friend being grass that it's in. The green and white actually looks very nice, I think. And I think that we had chain link fences growing up, and boy, were they ugly. And we as now, I'm pointing at a place that you can't see, I have white fences, but those are like the 7 foot tall fences. You can't see anything. Whereas the white picket is more like welcoming,
Yeah, it's
opposed to
just
like
tiny. It's just there.
closing the box of your yard to some extent. But I like the white picket fences. Like, dogs can talk to each other, humans can talk to each other. Although if they can jump high, but I really enjoyed the white picket fences. I haven't seen those in a really long time. You've heard them talked about ad nauseum in these cliches of what people desire in life, but or at least I just want the white picket fence and blah blah blah. But like, I think there's something there. It looks nice. The feng shui is like very nice. Looks nice.
I mean, yeah, it's a classic for a reason, and um, it definitely kind of sets the tone early on for this movie. Like this is a horror movie that takes place mostly during the day, during daylight hours.
Yeah. Nobody's
And
going swimming though, mostly at night.
But you really get a feel for what this town is about. I mean, this is a town that it's about to hit peak season with the 4th of July coming up. All
Yeah.
of the tourists are going to be coming to the town. They are getting ready, and they expect and need these this business, these dollars from these tourists. And if they shut down the beaches, they're not going to get that. So
Yeah.
they find this girl crawling with crabs on the beach the next day,
Not the
and
small ones that you have, but the large ones, the ones that
right, well, yeah, taking medicine for
eat.
that. So,
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah,
crabs,
but
by the way,
that's also a scene, like an interesting scene of the dead body, people walking up to her on the beach, and like literal crabs just like crawling away. Like,
it's
there's a
creepy.
lot of those. I mean, this is truly because it's not like a paranormal version of it, and it's also not a human who is like conducting these killings, so we can kind of like buy into it. But you change that fact, and it's a super horror movie, like
Oh
super
yeah,
super, yeah. Like,
this kind of changed the genre because in the early
imagine
'70s,
a merman is under the water and does all this, and you're
with a
like, this is
spear.
fucking scary shit, man. And then it's just it's a regular shark, which I guess anyway, go
I
on.
see this movie built kind of in two acts, and the first act is more man versus man, and the second act is all man versus nature. Being meaning the first act is the Scheider, the police sheriff, fighting with the local people, the local governor, trying to convince people that we need to shut down the beaches or more people are going to die, and the townspeople fighting back from that.
Yeah.
And it's kind
You
of
know
like
what?
it's like the what just happened 4 years ago with COVID-19,
Oh
and
yeah.
like, do
Wow,
we
it's been
shut
four
everything
years.
down? Yeah, it's been 4 years. More than 4 years since it started. But do we shut everything down? What do we do? Like it's that kind of conundrum of what's best for the public good. Is it
It's a
business
it's a
or is it
tough
lives?
it's a tough debate. I think in the sense, like, this is a movie and sharks. I mean, if you're in Florida, I mean, this could be of a particular, you know, there's lots of shark attacks there, or in South Africa. But like, in a general sense, yeah, I mean, I would imagine every reaction would be identical to this. So like, that's why, like, in the sense of like, we got to open back up. Of course, like a shark's not going to go nuts, right? And of course it does. But like I would be the same. I'd have the same rationale too. Let's clean everything up. Maybe put a net around some items. Look for the shark. Try to kill it, and then move on with their lives as best as we can. I'm not saying to forget the people who have died, but like that would be my instinct as well. But also we're the viewers and we can see behind the scenes of what actually is happening and progressing and the fear of it. So we're like, no, you can't open up. You got to close. But I understand why you would open up and why you would have to, unless you just want the entire town and the people to lose their jobs and ultimately move and the town to go to shit and the shark to still be out there. But yeah, I understand why people would open up. I have a question for you. Generally speaking,
Sure.
do you think that sharks like fat people more than skinny people?
I don't think they. Well, I don't think they really differentiate the two. They just see food and eat. They might be more satisfied at the end of the day with the fat person, um,
Mm.
but I think the initial thought is that looks like food. I eat food.
You think they're
Because
more keto focused, like more?
well, I don't know if they have any like gluten restrictions or trying to be like a little dairy free. But what do they say in the movie? Sharks just swim, eat, and make little sharks. That's what they
Yeah.
do.
Sharks in the womb actually eat each other, which is pretty wild to me.
That
First
I
time
did
I
not
heard
know
that.
that.
Like I saw a like little siblings just chewing on each other. They survival of the fittest, as you might imagine. Where what is the bird? There are plenty of birds, but I can't remember the specific one. But you know, bird has like two offspring, can't support just one, decides to kill one of the two, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, the sharks will just eat each other in the womb, which is wild, man. That's a crazy thing. Imagine your sister just you're not in the womb together, but like imagine your sister be like, "Sorry, you gotta go. Not
I'm
enough food
hungry.
for you. I got a mouth to feed." And
Yeah.
then that's it. It's a wild world, but I guess that's why we don't have we have different intelligence than a shark does. Yeah, I think they do like fatter people. Why wouldn't you? Why
Probably.
couldn't you? Yeah, there's more blood in the water potentially. Is there more
Um,
blood in the water? I don't even know.
they smell blood. They go for it. I want to talk about Quint,
Sure.
Robert Shaw's character.
Yeah.
Um, he is a local fisherman, shark hunter that has one of the best, I feel like, best opening entrances to a movie, and I'd like to play it for you.
Sure, Bob.
You all know me. Know how I earn a living. I'll catch this bird for you, but it ain't gonna be easy. Bad fish. Not like going down the pond chasing bluegills or tommycats. This shark, swallow you whole. Shaking, tenderizing, down you go. And we gotta do it quick. I don't bring back the tourists, and put all your businesses on a paying basis. But it's not gonna be pleasant. I value my neck a lot more than $3,000, Chief. I'll find him for 3, but I'll catch him and kill him for 10. And you gotta make up your minds. You wanna stay alive and ante up? You wanna play it cheap? Be on welfare the whole winter. I don't want no volunteers. I don't want no mates. There's too many captains on this island. $10,000 for me by myself. For that, you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Uh, amazing entrance. Nails on the chalkboard, sitting there, his hat a little tilted, eating some saltines, and he is a man that you feel like can do the job. We don't know his history yet, but he seems very confident in himself, so we have confidence in him. Um, but he was one of my favorite characters in the film.
He is my favorite. Yeah. I don't sit on fences. He was my favorite by far. I thought he just gave just an outstanding performance, and he had an interesting character arc or lack thereof at the end, which is speaking of gruesome deaths. That was Jesus, but he was such a confident, and especially a situation of shark attacks existing, confident resolve that just gave the audience while watching, as well as the individuals who are actually in that movie, just a bit of you can release your held in breath to some extent, and I think people enjoyed that. Now in that scene, of course, they are not abiding by his $10,000 rule until further things go down the path of people getting eaten. But boy, what a transition to get there. Um, I just thought that was outstanding. But to go back to your original moment, there were so many moments of in terms of people getting killed, eaten. But Alex, the boy, and Brody, who was on the beach watching it happen. I love the scenes with Brody. Not to get away from Quinn, but I'm just thinking of character development. But the magnitude of Brody on the beach, and also the magnitude of Brody in his 1,000-yard stares of just like, what have I gotten myself into? This is like, especially at the end where all three of them are on the boat and it's like defeated basically. But Brody has that stare when Alex was getting eaten, and it was so realistic to me because like I think I felt that stare. It was like maybe he just has that stare to begin with, and he's a fairly good actor. But I was like, I actually felt it. I was like, ooh, I'm there in that feeling of like Alex is getting eaten. He's like, oh my god. And then also at the end of the movie of the three of them on the boat, and there's like, what are we gonna do to kill this thing? Like it just we're dead. It's like we're resolved to death. And I think the last person to have that feeling was Quinn. And he was always like, well, I'm going to get this motherfucker. Like, no matter what. Like, you guys don't know what you're doing. You don't know these waters. You don't know what to do but with me. You can. And he so much so thought that he was like, I don't even need you guys. Like, I'll do this myself. Like, you're not even going to get on my boat. And then eventually, of course, that didn't work out. But he had he's the captain of the boat, clearly. And he had the two individuals come help. But what a great character. Fantastic. My favorite in the film, though.
Yeah, and you kind of learn, you definitely get to learn more about him throughout the film. Like he's not just this like tough seafaring captain that wants to hunt sharks. Like I feel like he's more terrified of sharks, but he's doing it to face his fears because of what happened in his previous time on the sea when he was in the army or the Navy. I can't remember. But yeah, then you have other characters like Hooper, who is he's Richard Dreyfuss's character. He is a young, I guess, seafaring scientist, and he comes in just to examine the shark to kind of see like what are we looking at here. Is this a great white? Is this a tiger shark? Like, how should we catch this thing? And he's kind of the shark expert. And he loves sharks. He's all about it. And so they catch this tiger shark, and it's a big moment for Amity Island, and they think they have this shark in place, and everything should be safe. And Hooper and Brody, they go down to cut the shark open and try and see if that girl or any parts of that girl are in there. And what do we find out? There's nothing except a license plate and some other things. And so we quickly learn that that's not the shark, but the beaches are still open.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that's where we get that scene with the kid. But I do love, like you talked about, that stare and what Spielberg did with the camera with that dolly zoom where he zooms in and dollies out. And it gives you that just that feeling.
How does he do that on the beach? Is it just like a runway? Like, because I was thinking about that, and he does it a lot, and it's fantastic. But the actual, production. So I'm curious, like, how that actually existed. Like,
they probably put tracks down because that was was before like the Shining had the, that handheld steady camera kind of thing. So everything had to be on tracks. And it, that's why it took so long to set this stuff up.
Right.
This was the first movie to be filmed in an open ocean, not a lake, not a studio, not a pool. They decided to do this in the open ocean.
Who thought this would be a good idea on a director who's just not done anything? Like how many times was there a green light that was like, yeah, that seems reasonable? Next guy, like, well, he thought it was reasonable. Why not? Like, it's great. It did happen, but like, what a disaster. I mean, this must have been miserable.
They probably got so excited about getting the rights to this book. They got the rights to this book before it was even published. And they developed the script out of it, but they were like literally rewriting and writing the script for the next day. Like they didn't have everything pretty much laid out. And even some changes of things that happened with them getting footage of actual sharks. Like there was some footage of actual sharks, like when the shark was tearing up the cage. That was actually filmed in Australia by this married couple. And Spielberg liked the shot of the cage being torn apart, but Richard Dreyfuss was no longer in it. So they had to rework the script because Richard Dreyfuss's character was supposed to die in the cage. But since the footage of the actual shark tearing it up, he wasn't in it, they said, all right, we're going to have him live and swim to shore. They were kind of doing it on the fly, on the pants of the seat of the pants.
I loved the that shot in particular because it made me laugh as well because like it was such a small shark that was on scene. And then like the shark jaws was just massive, like size of a boat basically. Not that this is picking
nits.
Yeah. Speaking of like later in the movie as well, like I really enjoyed and quotes, a couple quotes that were said. One, Quinn, the boat was potentially going to be on fire, and he just so calmly is like, "Put out the fire, would you?" Just like not a care in the world. Well, he does have a care. He has Jaws on his mind, but the fire is clearly going to solve itself, or so he thinks. And she's like, "Put out the fire, will you?"
Put out the fire,
so just confident. But the one quote that I loved is when they were getting drunk on the boat and toasting, and he was like, "Here's to swimming with bow-legged women." I don't know why. Like, I don't know if it was clear to me. It was clearly meant like, if you want to swim now with Jaws, where the shark, like the bow-legged, it's like the slowest runner coming away from a grizzly is going to be the one that's eaten, right? Or like a tiger. Yeah. So it's like swimming with bow-legged women. She clearly can't swim too well, so she's going to get eaten by Jaws first. So that's how I perceived it. I don't know if that's how it was meant to be, but like I don't care anymore because like poetry or writing is of the audience. It's not for people to make it. So like that's how I took it, and I was like, that is so funny. Like, but they're drunk, and that's what they're saying. And it's like this self-deprecating moment. It was one of my favorite moments of the whole film. And that because
I love the moment of them. It was actually great to see them bonding.
Yeah.
And showing their scars. And then it all kind of just changed when we have Shaw talking about his tattoo removal. It was the USS Indianapolis. And I had no idea like what kind of went down on the USS Indianapolis, but I kind of, did my half-ass internet research, and it's a true thing. Like these guys were delivering the bomb, and they were out to sea, and everything went to hell, and people were getting eaten and killed by sharks, and it was a horrific thing.
Yeah.
And him telling that story was just
so terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, that story is there's three stories that come to mind, or two other stories. That story, there's another story that I think it's a terrible tragedy, but like there's one I think in Cambodia, the Philippines, or Thailand, where they're in the, I think in the 1930s or 40s, there was like something's like burning. Hopefully not too close to here. This might be dangerous. these crocodiles, basically a crocodile infested water. These soldiers were like dropped off, and they're like, just make it a half mile through here, and you get to the beach, and like they basically went into all these crocodiles and just got murked. It reminds me of that, which is interesting. I hope nothing is on fire here, to be honest.
I don't smell anything. You're good.
That's good. That's good for you. But it reminded me of that. It's wild, like quite wild, honestly. And speaking of smell, getting off topic a little bit, there was an Old Spice section of this movie where he was putting it on something that smelled bad, and I was thinking that, first of all, it's hilarious that Old Spice still exists to this day, and one in which I use deodorant of, but like the actual cologne. And I was curious, did you ever use Old Spice as a kid?
Old Spice cologne? No, not once.
I did. My father did, and he said it like he would always tell us as a young chap that this smells better than like all the other colognes out there, and like all the women think it. Well, this is pretty telling. It was like, oh, the women think it smells better than any cologne out there, and I was like, Dad, you smell like, I don't know, like old people, like death and old people, and that's what I saw with this. But I remember actually there was a dead rat. Maybe it's a mouse now I think about it. There was a dead rat on our front lawn in Florida when I was a child. And I remember taking that same cologne that my dad used and putting it on the rat to make it smell better. And it just made it smell differently worse, if that makes sense. It's like this disgusting. And I first of all, I didn't even want to pick it up. I could have just picked it up and got rid of the situation. But I remember just pouring Old Spice on it. And then it just smelled like a dead animal with Old Spice, which is, it's not good. Doesn't smell good. If anything, it smells worse.
Yeah, probably now whenever you do smell that Old Spice, it triggers that thinking of the dead rat as well. It just kind of lingers there.
Or my dead father. Oh, though he's not dead. But yeah, certainly. Yeah. But yeah, I first of all, I didn't know there was Jaws 2 or Jaws 3. And I two parts of the movie, the 1,000-yard stare of like defeating or being defeated by the shark, as well as their camaraderie on the boat, were my favorite parts of the movie. But just it's hard sometimes, and I know you rated very poorly the Planet of the Apes movie, which was so groundbreaking. I think if you understood that and did a little more research, and although it was like our first, you'd understand like how momentous that moment was, to understand like how it was set in the contextual side. And if you apply that same logic to Jaws, your rating would go up drastically in Planet of the Apes as well as Jaws. But like, it's hard to kind of get there. You kind of have to do like a lot of review or talk to people anecdotally of like the impact it actually had. And it's hard to like look back and see the context. That were impossible without talking to people and stuff. But like this movie, man, was so impactful. Like Silence of the Lambs, I would say is another one a little later that was super impactful. But this in particular affected everyone because everyone knows sharks and everyone loves the beach. It's their first love.
It's the first love, yeah.
But it was so impactful, I think, and also impactful to the career of Steven Spielberg. I mean, look at him now. He's kind of had a few.
Yeah, he got the green light to do whatever he wanted. What did he do after this? Close Encounters was next, and then went
Is
into
after? Wow.
Yeah, and then Indiana Jones. But yeah, he had. It's just funny because, and I want to play this next clip. This is not from a movie. This is from an interview. But during
so you have another clip on Jaws.
Yeah.
So you clearly prepped. Like you were
prepping. But this clip is from an interview with Richard Dreyfuss, and it is explaining why Steven Spielberg didn't stick around for the last shot of Jaws, nor does he stick around for the last shot of any of his films. Take a listen.
Steven and I were on a flight back to L.A., and I said, "So how was the last shot? You know, they blow up the." He said, "They're doing it right now." I said, "They're doing it right now. Why aren't you there?" He goes, and I said, "Steven?" He said something like, "Well, he got word. He knew that they were going to throw him in. So he decided to just skip out and not do the last shot. Not do the last blowing up shot. Yeah, not do that one. Which became, by the way, a tradition of Stevens. He never would do the last shot of his movies because he thought the crew was always going to do something. And he probably was right. Had I been on his crew, I would have. But it's become a tradition that Steven never shoots his last shot. One day, I'm going to use this information.
Yeah, he thought the crew was going to throw him in the water, and he was like, "I'm out. I'm not going to be there for it."
That's so weird. I
think it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. It's an interesting tidbit. Interesting fact. Do you want to hear another interesting fact?
Sure.
What is in common between a shark and a woman's vagina?
Is this a joke? Is this like a... Oh gosh. I don't know. I don't know where you're going with this.
Squalene. I didn't have to look this up, by the way. I've known this fact for many years. Squalene.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
What is squalene?
Squalene is only found in two places on Earth, and that is a whale's, I think it's a liver, a shark's liver, and a woman's vagina. And if you've ever had sex with a woman, or when you do in the future, that lubricant in a woman's vagina is the same as a shark's liver. It's called squalene. It's a different, the consistency is slightly different, but it's exactly the same chemically. I shouldn't even say that. I have no idea. But squalene is found in two places: woman's vagina, shark livers. Isn't that weird?
Did not know that.
Me neither. Until about 10 years ago. And then I use that as frequently as I possibly can, which is not very often, as you might think. And so
right.
when we're talking about sharks, I was like, oh, do I have a fact in the back of my mind? Oh, do I have a fact to tell?
Yeah, I don't think that's like a good dinner party conversation, guys. Like, hey, did you know?
I had sex with a shark's liver. It was great. We're going to have mermaid soon. But yeah, I feel like you had certainly prepped for Jaws. I feel like I'm still.
I wanted to know as much about it as possible, so I definitely did my research.
Yeah, I don't do that with your movies. I try to allow that to unfold, and I like the element of surprise for me.
Okay.
To be surprised. So I don't look up any trivia, no facts, so just watch the movie. That's it. I try my best to do nothing. Yeah, you can direct it. And so I thought I was doing Jaws, so I'm glad we just did this together. So why don't you go and do Independence Day while we're here?
I certainly can if you like.
No, no, I can go through the breakdown. I just to stop though. Or I guess it's yours, but I really enjoy Jaws. It's as time goes on, of course, the use of the physical shark is dated, but you gotta, just as you do, or you shouldn't compare people that play like Bill Russell to Michael Jordan in like different eras. It's like they're pound for pound rankings of fighters from like different time periods for that matter. It's just look, it's hard to be objective in our eyes or using our eyes with what we have now. But if you really are actually objective, this was a groundbreaking film, an absolutely groundbreaking film that changed the entire industry. And I think, as you said before, that's what it truly did. So I appreciate it really much, really to a T. It's great.
100%. It's Spielberg and John Williams, like just them being able to join up together. It's this is the first
better director and sound duo, by far. I mean,
This
George
is
Lucas and John Williams, but like John Williams is half that.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And when Spielberg was looking for a composer for this film, and he saw this other film that was, he said, "Who's the composer of this?" It's like John Williams, and he thought that this guy was going to be some like 70-year-old composer because like his sound just had that like that
Yeah.
that aura of somebody that's been in the industry for a long time. And then when he met him, he's like, this guy's my age. Like,
yeah.
we're going to work together.
Yeah.
And Spielberg came up through the ranks in the 70s, and he wasn't like the partier kind of like the Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola. He was kind of like the nerdy film guy, and he just killed it with his basically his first film out of the box. Just amazing.
But John Williams, I couldn't say. John Williams is the best. He's the best ever. I don't think there's a couple close seconds, or thirds, but like he's head and shoulders above everyone else. Just is.
Yeah.
If you write down like his movies that he's made, and even recently, it's fantastic, unbelievable.
Another little tidbit is when Spielberg came in to John Williams' session when he was, coming up with a theme for Jaws. He's like, "Hey, Steven, I got it. I want you to listen to it." Steven sits down. It's like, "Okay, play it," and he plays the theme, and Spielberg's like, "You're joking, right?"
Yeah.
It's like, no, trust me. Glad he did.
Well, I think there was also a side story to that one too, where this was used. Like the initial was not to be used, but it was like accidentally played, and then he ultimately played it because he was interested. There's another backstory to that too.
Interesting.
To where you're getting at to begin with, but because it was just so simple, like this could be the end result. But yeah, Independence Day, blockbuster again. I wouldn't say as big of a blockbuster. Of course, in the box office, 817 million is going to yield a lot, especially with a 75 million budget. Can you imagine making a movie now for 75 and getting 817? That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
There's of course movies all these Avenger movies and whatever Marvel movies that you can point to suggest otherwise. Although it appears they're going downhill very rapidly, which
it's a decline.
I think a lot of people would appreciate, including myself, somebody who also appreciates them, but I would like to see other movies such as Jaws come out again. But Independence Day, pretty much the rightful throne of July 4th movies, and I think in the future of big blockbuster films, and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air actually being able to apply, and not saying necessarily his acting chops, but his reliability and making that dough, because boy, did he come off well. And this wasn't the same capacity as a Steven Spielberg and being able to direct for the first time and somebody taking a huge... I mean, I guess to some extent, 75 is a big deal, but like, there was going to be a black character cast in this role. And with that being said, Will Smith, I mean, who else would you choose? I guess you can choose a variety of people, but he crushed. I mean, he crushed it. It was his coming of age in 1996, but Independence Day, 145 minutes. It's actually longer than I was expecting while rewatching this. I've seen this movie so many times that I almost don't even have to watch it now. Like I've seen it I've almost seen it too many times. Like I don't know if I can watch this again for 10 years at least. Roland Emmerich, who did Godzilla and the Day After Tomorrow, dude loves to just rip the
master of disaster.
Yeah, PG-13. It's a comedy drama, 68% on Rotten Tomatoes. But I said the budget. But the synopsis is this: if you haven't seen it for whatever reason, get out of under your shell, under your rock. But in this epic adventure film, Independence Day, the strange phenomena, aliens are coming, surface around the globe. The skies ignite, terror races through the world's major cities. And as these extraordinary events unfold, it becomes increasingly clear that a force of incredible magnitude has arrived. Its mission, I want to get you some of your taglines, and I hope that you have them since you're the one that's covering the story. Its mission, total annihilation over the 4th of July weekend. And that's literally what these aliens want, total annihilation of the world. The last hope to stop the destruction is an unlikely group of people united by fate and unimaginable circumstances. And I have to ask the question just right off the bat. How many of these like space type movies, like Armageddon, for example, have to be so hilariously unrealistic and just like not tied to space? And if Neil deGrasse Tyson in the late 90s was like around to evaluate movies, and maybe he did, I just think it would be hilarious to see what he had to say about the interpretation.
General audience doesn't care about the scientific value of some of these alien invasion movies.
We have a movie podcast. We're not the general community of movie watchers.
That's true.
Yeah. So I just but aliens are coming. and Will Smith, what a mix. And just, my notes are limited and more of like a asking you of questions that I think are funny. But like this movie in particular was, at that moment, at least for me, I think I was like 14 when this came out, 15 possibly. I did see it in theaters, and I do remember how much fun it was. And I would say pretty much going forward, I was like, dude, I want to watch, because I watched Fresh Prince of Bel Air as well. I listened to Will rap before then, was a huge fan. And so I was like, just pretty much like everyone else on earth, was like, Will Smith is, anytime he's coming out with a movie, it's going to be big. And it was. And I watched pretty much everything after that.
Is
everything. Yeah. But this is coming out.
This is a run. Yeah, he did Bad Boys right before this, and then Independence Day, and then Men in Black.
What a run!
I mean, that's incredible.
Bad Boys didn't crush as much, but Men in Black, I think, did even better than this.
Men in Black was one of the huge hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, he came out of the gate, and he announced himself. Like, yeah, you knew him from Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff and him rapping and everything like that. But like a crossover sensation like that, and he's one of those now. I mean, back in the 90s, after these 3 films, like, you just put Will Smith in a film and it's going to make $200 million. Like, no question.
Except the Wild Wild West.
No, it made like $260 million.
But as big as Flop, allegedly.
Yeah, it was a big.
There was a lot of money that was involved in that, and I actually really, really, truly enjoy that movie. Still, there's something about Will Smith, even if he makes a bad movie or what critics consider to be a bad movie. I still pretty much, very much enjoy it.
Do you know what film he turned down to do Wild Wild West?
Oh God, no.
He was going to be Neo in The Matrix.
Oh, I do know that. Yeah, I did know that. See that there was a bunch of people for Neo that turned down that role as well. I can't remember. Bad movie memory. But like, that would be interesting with Jada Pinkett also playing.
Some taglines for this movie. We've always believed we weren't alone. On July 4th, we'll wish we were.
That's actually a pretty good tagline. That's a really good tagline.
Yeah, not bad. Here's a nod to Spielberg. These extraterrestrials don't want to phone home. They want our home. That's pretty bad, actually.
Why? I feel like you are just like making these up as you go along. Like you're pretending to open something on a screen and you're just like, this is what the tagline is. Like, where are you getting the taglines? What is this?
I'm just making them up, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you're making it up. Remember, you always talk about improv and like, okay, and then like, so like, oh, what are the taglines? I'm going to open up a white screen so the reflection on my glasses appears like I'm actually looking something up, but then I'm just going to make it up as we go along. What is the website? What do you do? Like, tagline?
Take a good look. It could be your last.
See? You're making these up. I want
on
this
the 4th
to be a
of
running
July.
bit.
On the 4th of July, you will have a ringside seat for the ultimate fireworks show. These are my favorite one right here. My favorite one, because this came out in July.
Yeah.
Don't make plans for August. Cherry.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I want this to be a running joke with taglines that you should.
Maybe I say 3, and you have to guess the one that's fake.
See, but don't ever tell me. I think it should just be like a running thing where you legitimately make some shit up and you go into the bit.
I like it. I can definitely do that. Yeah. I already did.
But you definitely already have for sure, because I don't believe any of these taglines exist. Like, what is a tagline?
Tagline is what they'll put on the poster to kind of like get people pumped up for it. Or sometimes they'll just have like the tagline, the date, and like, not even the title, and you kind of know like, oh, that's going to be Independence Day.
How does it go on a poster with like something that's already like it doesn't make any sense. It's like it takes up the whole White House that's getting exploded.
Oh, what a great scene that was.
How many times do you think the White House has been imploded or exploded in film?
I'd have to say gosh, I'd say over under. I'd say definitely over 10 times.
I was gonna say a dozen. Yeah, because what's that one with Gerard? Well,
Yeah, White House Down or something like
is that what it
that.
is? But is that an
I,
explosion? I mean, it's definitely pretty fucked. The White
yeah.
House is, but
I like these natural effects where they build models and explode them. I think it just looks better than CGI.
it looks way better than CGI, and they actually used more models in this film than any other film. Well, I even still think to this day, because we have CGI now, there's more models used in scenes than any other movie ever,
It's
which is
incredible.
crazy. So basically,
Yeah.
any flying scene is a model outside of the first initial flying scene. Everything else that flies into the sky is a model. It looks more realistic. Like, for example, I think of Star Wars, and
Yeah.
going to George Lucas, but like Star Wars, some scenes were shot with like actual drawings, like large physical drawings, and I that those even look hyper realistic to me. Or I shouldn't say hyper, but they looked very realistic. Um, and I would prefer that over CGI. That feeling, CGI. There's like, even in like,
It's
for example,
it's like the
Phantom Menace is like, this is CGI, and we can still tell CGI. Like there's not that many movies that has a human actually reacting or acting in a way that is natural per se, which I appreciate from the models, or I appreciate from drawings in particular.
it's
If they're stationary.
the uncanny valley that we haven't really been able to cross yet, right?
Uncanny valley, are those words that are put together to define CGI now? I've never heard those two put together.
It's the idea that we can't make uh, computer graphics, I guess, humans, like something that's either AI or computer generated, and we want to make it look like a human. We can't actually cross that valley or connect that valley to actually make it look actually legitimately real.
I got the definition of what you were trying to get at, but I was saying, are those two words collectively together known as an uncanny valley, and when did that definition come?
Oh, I don't know when the definition came, but I'm just
Just come up with it. Yeah, again, it's just like everything is improv to you, huh? But yeah, we have spaceships. I mean, what is there not to like about this? There's spaceships, there's aliens. Aliens, of course, are coming. Kind of reminds me of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but with less, intent on making you laugh internally or externally. But like, it is just a quintessential movie of who Will Smith is when it really comes down to it. But
and he's not even he's like the third main character in this. I mean, you come away from the movie being like, this is fucking Will Smith's movie. But when
yeah,
you watch it again, he's like not in like 30 minutes. He's not in it.
yeah, that's a good point.
Pretty
I mean,
wild.
it's Jeff Goldblum pretty much is like the lead at the very beginning, and it does, I guess, change hand from time to time.
Yeah.
Um,
Then you get the
and
president. Then you get
Jeff really is, even in the central part of the movie, like getting to the president and his interaction with the president. You're like, oh, he's the guy that's going to save the day. He's the MIT graduate who is now a cable operator, or can't be a cable operator. Basically, he went to school for eight years, can't can't fix a cable box. Maybe not those exact words, but I like that though. It's the different perspectives. It's almost like a catch-22 where you have like different narrators, which is very hard to pull off in a book, but much easier to pull off in a movie, because you can kind of easily get behind them. But like, clearly, when Will gets on screen, he's the guy.
he's the man. Yeah,
He's
and I
the,
like how the opening scene where you see him lazily getting out of bed, making his coffee, trying to wake up his stripper girlfriend, going outside, reading the paper, like what everybody like this just slow buildup of him finally looking up at the sky and realizing, oh shit, there's a spaceship over in the entire city of Los Angeles.
yeah, that was
Holy
very
shit.
unrealistic to me. Not that the movie would be a realistic movie, but like that one single moment, if I had to boil down of annoyance, I was just like, really? Like, you're a very observant person. You're looking right and left and not even straight. Like, you're facing straight, and then you're noticing on your peripheral vision. And again, this is being T-Rock.
It's a
But it's
little
just little tidbits there that nobody actually thinks of, and people are going to hate me for. But that's fine. I'll just be a Neil deGrasse Tyson. Hate me.
Oh, that's fine. But what did you think of Randy Quaid's story in this film?
Awesome,
like that,
because he's the guy. Like, he's that in real life, and
he's never changed. He's
and
basically
real
the
life,
uncle.
yeah, and real life characters who we may or may not know, who have this like mindset of aliens do exist, are that person. They may not be like inside more. They don't come out to play. I mean, but there's plenty of people in the area, like in his frame of mind, that if you look on any board in regards to aliens, message board for that matter, these humans are so addicted. Or Bigfoot people, they're like this. They're definitely like this. Do you know any Bigfoot people? You do know a Bigfoot person. We do, but like, not to say he's like crazy like this, but like, there's definitely a side to human beings that get obsessed with things, and that's all they really kind of think about. And I'm interested in those humans. I would actually like to hang out with Randy Quaid. Is he alive? This is a bad question.
I think so. Yeah, he's never dropped this character. He's been method acting this same character, just thinking maybe I'll get another shot at that. Even though he,
do you think he's method acting, or you think he's just like himself? I mean,
you know how
he is himself.
Do you know how Austin Butler played Elvis, and for like 2 years afterwards, like he got accused of like he still couldn't drop the Elvis voice, and he had to get a dialect coach to try and find his real voice back?
What?
Wait, yeah, what? This is true.
What happened?
Yeah, and so I mean, he literally played Elvis, and he was playing Elvis for 2 years and got into character and got the voice down, and then he like stopped playing Elvis, and he would do interviews still talking like Elvis. And it was this whole thing where he had to get I don't think he was doing it purposely. He just couldn't shake his Elvis accent.
No, but is that the bit?
No, that's
like
what he was doing.
Like, guys, had to get a voice coach. Really put in my heart and soul to Elvis. Like, is he acting again, like in real life?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe this is like this performance thing that Randy Quaid is doing.
Like, if you're that truly good of an actor, wouldn't you be able to just be like, I'm not acting anymore, I'm going to change my voice back?
You would think. Yeah, you would think.
Yeah.
But
could you just wild. Act? Can't you just act to have a different voice?
Maybe
he's not that good of an actor. This is a mind fuck, a mind meld.
This is.
Do you believe in aliens?
Aliens. So, are the aliens among us? Yes, I do believe that there are aliens. I don't know if they're actually among us right now. But yeah, I do definitely think that there's some type of life outside of our small little microcosm of the universe.
You think they're possibly among us?
Possibly, yeah.
Interesting. Do you think you're an alien?
Thought about that. And that would be a weird juxtaposition because I don't think that
Why?
Because if I am and don't know it, that's just very strange, right?
Would it be? Like, I mean, you're an alien. That's strange.
But am I an illegal alien? That's the other part.
You could be a legal alien.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Still with your driver's license. Yeah, I don't know if aliens exist. There are things in this world, such as the CIA declassified files of flying objects. For example, there was like, what is it, colonel or captain? Clearly not very good. We both have military families. Not doing so well here. But there was a story that's been repeated over and over, actually. One man was on Joe Rogan that was wildly entertaining. And basically, he was flying his spacecraft, his plane over San Diego, and an object came out of the water and was able to go 60 miles in like 3 seconds. It just zipped. Looked like a big tic tac. His words. And went into this for like 2 hours. And that was wild. And then the CIA declassified those files and basically said, yeah, that's actually true. and which is crazy. And like, he landed the plane. They have to do these after, I don't know what to call them, or what they like, after action reports. I think they might be called,
Okay.
actually, AARs.
TPS reports, yeah.
Basically, and he had to file these. So, do I believe those are aliens, or maybe they're just ships that are inspecting our Earth? One or the other exists, and so therefore, I think of some capacity. I think that, yeah, certainly. It's. I mean, it could be. It's so nuanced. Like, are the aliens? I have no fucking idea.
Secondly, is there an Area 51?
Yeah, I don't know about that either. But I mean, there is an Area 51.
Yeah,
but like,
yeah. So the military was on board to help with this film and supply, like, some of the planes and everything like that. But they said, we want you to take the area. We want you to take the Area 51 out of the script.
Yeah,
and they're like, no, no, we're not. And then they're like, okay, you don't get our support.
They should have just made it Area 52.
Yeah, right. Just call it something else.
Like, okay, Claria 51. Like, I don't know, Section 51. Like, I don't know. Like, name it something else. But I think it's an interesting concept. Not necessarily Bigfoot, but Gigantopithecus is like what is thought to be as like an original Bigfoot. But that doesn't really interest me at all. But aliens, I could see how people could kind of get lost on it. But ultimately, it really, there's so much not evidence, but like there's so little evidence to really pick and choose and decide whatever you want to do. But like, what are you going to do with it after you got aliens? Like, let's say you do have aliens. You're assuming it from this little amount of evidence. It's like, okay, you're gonna continue living. It's like an existential crisis almost to me. Okay, you're gonna continue living your life, or like go down this weird rabbit hole of using radio signals to get more aliens. Okay, then what do you do? Then what do you do if you actually get in contact with aliens? Well, in 1972 or 71 we sent objects into space to try to do such a thing, where we had inscribed messages written in English, of course, and records that were also in English, songs that they could play if they happen to have a record player in space, which is just so funny and narcissistic and egocentric.
Well, I mean,
of us.
Here, look at this movie where Will Smith can jump in a spaceship and fly it right off the bat.
I will be the one, General. I will be the one. Like,
I can figure this out.
But let's be honest. If nobody could, I mean, first of all, Jeff Goldblum's characters should be the one flying it, even though he hasn't flew it. He at least understands the complexity or the way to get in, as a computer virus should, and the person I shouldn't say exactly, because he's giving estimates. At least he knows the framework. Like, Will Smith has flown a plane, but doesn't understand anything else. Jeff, he understands, like, well, I got a computer virus. I know how to hurt them. If somebody knows how to hurt them and you were trying to injure them and destroy them, I would probably do Jeff.
Yeah.
He went to MIT.
I mean, he's a smart guy. It's just there's so many like of these jumps of you have to jump to these conclusions. Like, even like Will Smith, when he first encounters the alien, and he punches him in the head, and he knocks. What does he say? "Welcome to Earth." And he knocks him out cold. The alien's wearing an exoskeleton suit.
It's a hard punch. I mean, his brain is literally inside of his body. And there's a head inside of that too. Like, it's just you're doing me now. You're doing the Neil deGrasse Tyson. But maybe the concussion. Look, I mean, that's what a lot of people think that aliens truly are going to be, and eventually we will become aliens. Like, we become, like, what's that story with Eve and the robot, Pixar, and the fat people in space?
Oh yeah, WALL-E.
WALL-E, good Lord in heaven. But WALL-E it reminds me of something similar to this, where humans' bodies become less so and become more of defined, as kind of like we're doing now with AI and Neuralink. You can kind of just become, you don't use your body as much, and so therefore your body is more irrelevant. And like, just as our brains and like women are getting more C-sections now, of course, because our heads are bigger, and our heads are bigger because we have, as of 5 million years ago, we started eating meat, and therefore we got those bigger brains because of the meat, and that's at least one of the reasons for it. And women cervixes are not large enough, and sometimes they have to either have C-sections or break the pelvis to be able to have kids now, and that's not normal, and it wasn't always like this. And so we're evolving, ultimately, is what I'm trying to say. And like, what if we just evolve ultimately to aliens, and that's always the goal? But what if these aliens are sensitive? It's really my point, to answer your question. Maybe they are hyper intelligent, not intelligent enough to know a punch is coming, or the fact that humans have very archaic weapons to use and can still injure you, and they overlook that entirely. But like, maybe they are a little sensitive at that.
Yeah,
that's nice. Aliens are sensitive,
and it's the most mid 90s idea of like, we're gonna give them a computer virus.
Dude, do you remember the net around the same time?
We're gonna send them a spam email and hope they click the link.
That happens far more frequent. That's 80% of reasons why people get hacked today. So first of all, I think it's hysterical. Do you remember like hackers at the same time period?
Yeah,
hackers, the net, especially with Sandra Bullock, where she like is typing stuff in, and she's basically just doing like QWERTY, and then like it's like things are just popping on the screen. Hackers the same, just things popping on the screen. But 1999 was a scary time for everything because the world was ending. You know.
Oh yeah,
the year 2000, Y2K. People were
Y2K
freaking out. So computer virus back in starting in 94 in AOL days, 93, and like CompuServe, those were, dude, a computer virus to me back then was massive. It's like you could do anything with a computer virus. Oh, you wanted to like, die hard. You wanted to whatever it might be, like take money from the Federal Reserve. You wanted to actually, you could do anything you wanted. It was limitless. And I guess to some extent it is to this day. But like back then it was supremely limitless. Also in your head it was limitless. So you could hack.
Oh, yeah. So, well, people didn't really understand it either. It was...
Yeah, I still
you just say
still have,
the computer virus.
Still have no idea what I'm talking about. But I would like one of those alien spacecrafts. But I will say this. Let's say you could fly a plane or otherwise. I think, Quinn from Jaws, to tie these two movies together, Quinn from Jaws is like the father figure to Randy Quaid's character. But like you had the child like a little too early, and Randy Quaid had to be like assisted for like 6 weeks of life and in the hospital, and like was on like a breathing machine. And then that's what happened to Randy. Not to say Randy is like that in real life, but that's the character, right? Like you kind of have the toughness, but like the ignorance of like understanding risk. Whereas Quinn was like, this is a shark. I hunt sharks. I'm a man. I know what I'm doing. Randy is like that as well and has been repeating it forever, but it's like off kilter. I think they're a similar character, but like one is less intelligent.
That's a good point that you make. And I think Randy's character, the reason why is because he's been examined by aliens, maybe in a sexual way, and that has probably caused some harm mentally.
Yeah, it's so funny that aliens exist primarily to function in a way to evaluate the sexual nature of us. They came all this way to probe us. Do you think that there's so many psychologists would have a lot to say here? Just as like schizophrenic people are always God or Jesus or the reincarnation, which is funny when you get two schizophrenic people together in the same room who are both God fighting it out. But speaking of punching,
it's like that.
aliens,
it's like that meme. It's like that meme when the guy has two cell phones and he calls two Chinese restaurants.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they're just going back and forth.
I love that. First of all, I've seen that like 1,000 times, maybe 6. But Julius Levinson, both my quotes are related. You punched the president, and then Jeff Goldblum. He wasn't the president yet. I was like, there wasn't a lot of quotes here other than like funny quotes that were like,
little quips. I love Judd Hesh, the father of
he's the best
computer guy. He's the best.
Yeah, that was his quote. Yeah,
like they're driving on the highway and he's like, "What do you think? Washington's going somewhere?" And they kind of just look at each other like,
He's great.
Yeah, it might
he
be.
also said, all you need is love. John Lennon. He says it like in this pause between each. John Lennon, smart man. Shot in the back. Very sad. Like it would be like if Trump wrote a tweet, all you need is love. John Lennon, smart man. Shot in the back. Very sad. Like it just I don't know.
Yeah, that's a Trump tweet.
The way it was delivered was so funny to me. I don't know why I'm laughing in movies where aliens are attacking the world and Jaws is eating the face off children, but I guess that's where we are. I didn't have to be honest, I didn't have a whole lot written on Jaws or blockbuster films. To me were more of just like prying into the nature of like how we perceive them, and like aliens, for example, exist, and like, are you scared of the water? Like they're not blockbuster movies. I'd be interested to see like a very prolific blockbuster movie, but also one of quite large significance to the sense of like maybe a replication of a book, not Jaws, but like that had more moments of I don't know, poetry unseen, if that makes sense, whether it's a visual poetry or otherwise.
Subtext.
Yeah, more of a discussive moment. But I guess this does. But with that being said, I have a few just trivial moments, or trivia moments, I should say, about the scene in which Will Smith, he was dragging, after you knocked out the alien.
Yeah, dragging his dreadlock ass through the desert.
And he was like, "What is that smell?" That was actually like completely ad-libbed, and there's tiny brine strip that died where they were, and as he's dragging whatever that creature was, it actually legitimately did smell horrendous because of the shrimp like were decaying, and they wasn't a part of the script, of course.
It seemed like a real reaction.
Yeah, because he's like, "Wow, what was that smell?" But I like that scene, of course. But again, not it was Will Smith makes just such fun movies. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, and that was going back to Jaws. There, the most famous line in that movie was also ad-libbed. It wasn't in the script.
Yeah.
I think we're going to need a bigger boat.
I mean, that's considered a top 10 line of all time.
Yeah.
And it's funny to me. It's so funny. Because in that moment, he's like what happens before it? Like he almost gets eaten. The boat's basically sinking effectively, and he's got a cigarette in his hand, and he walks slowly back, like slowly. And I'm like, if that happened to me in that moment, I'd fucking be sprinting, But
you're on a boat. Where are you going to go?
And the shock of it, but still, like it's at an angle, and so you can fall down. So he just goes back. I think we're gonna need a bigger boat, and I was like, that's powerful. Like that 1,000-yard stare is coming out again. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But I have two things. Speaking of old Jeff and quotes, the same line, "Must go faster, must go faster," also was used in Jurassic Park, which was
he brought it back,
replicated there. And then I have another just trivia. So the director, he was notified that Robert Loggia was very upset and he was refusing to leave his trailer. So several days earlier, the producer Dean Devlin, did you know this? Accidentally suggested to Loggia that he watch Airplane from 1990 for inspiration when he actually intended to suggest Airport. Not familiar with either film, Loggia rented Airplane, and after watching it, thought he had unknowingly been participating in the production of a spoof movie.
He wouldn't leave the trailer. He was like, no. Can't make this shit up.
But he signed off, so he's like, I want to know like what happened in his head. It's like, I did sign the dotted line. I have a contractual obligation to fulfill this. But like, fuck this, man. I'm not coming out of my goddamn I'm not coming out of my trailer. I can't just that moment I want in real life to like I wish it was captured, and then like the jokes on him like ha ha ha, this is funny. That is so funny. Like I want to.
Could you imagine just his face while he was watching Airplane, being like, "What am I getting into?"
Like the realization of like this is, and also like he'll reread the script while he's watching Airplane and be like, "This, I don't see how they're gonna."
Because Airplane is a disaster movie.
Yeah, no, sure.
It's just a spoof on a disaster movie.
Sure, Don't call me anyway. But it's just
don't call me Shirley.
It's a hilarious moment to sit and think about this guy in a trailer not coming out because he's scared. He's battling the demons of signing the contract and owning up to what he has done as a human being and a man, and then like also refusing in the back of his mind, like, what the fuck is going on? But all because of a mistake. I love moments like this. It makes me laugh.
Great.
Yeah.
I would be remiss to not play a clip from this movie.
Hit it.
And the clip that I have to play is one you know quite well. So here we go.
Good morning. Good morning. In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world. And you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interest. Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July. And you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Best fictional president of all time?
Oh, he's good. Actually,
I think he's up there. I mean, he flies a damn fighter pilot jet at the end of the movie. Like he's in it. He's in the mix. But yeah, Dylan Thomas. Got a shout out to Dylan Thomas, poet, right? Am I saying that right, Dylan Thomas?
I don't know.
Do not go gently into that good night.
Yeah, I don't know who drafted that.
Yeah, it's Welsh poet Dylan Thomas. Anyways, love that speech. Gets me every time. Popcorn flick, man. This is not a movie, like you said, with a lot of depth.
No.
I think Jaws had more depth in
you think
overall. Yeah.
You think? Sitting on the fence, there you go again.
No, I'm being facetious. It definitely did. But what a fun movie, man.
It was fun. I this is the first and only time I've watched it and thought, I don't think I can watch this again. I just have seen it so many times.
I've seen it a lot too.
If I'm saying this, it means like it's wild. I don't think I've ever said it about any movie. So I've seen this so many times. I've seen Speed a lot because I can watch Speed again, but I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. But it's definitely it's too many at this point. Which is significant. I own it. It's wild. I have a moment to share with you. Sure. So there were over 70 mock news broadcasts that were created actually for this film, and they all used like real life newscasters. And since the makers believed the actors would not look convincing in such scenes, like they actually used proper newscasters to conduct themselves, which raises an interesting thought to me. I actually have one of my good friends who old Nanny. He had an ex fiance that her whole job, she was an actress, but she was typecasted, and she was a newscaster in like very prevalent movies, but was just a newscaster.
What a weird typecast,
right?
It's very specific, yeah.
But like in like lots, like movies you would know, yeah. And it's I want to say like I've seen like 7. I want to say 6 to 7 of like significant movies. And I'm like, this is interesting. You can get cast in this way as like a newscaster. And I guess if you have that voice, it's going to get repeated, right?
Yeah.
But boy, like you do too. And it's like, that's it. You're a newscaster, but at least you got into, maybe meet some people and make your own film, do whatever and see what happens. But like, interesting moment.
It
But
is very
all real
interesting.
newscasters. I don't know who they are. I don't know. I don't want watch the news, so I couldn't really tell you. Jaws and Independence Day. Who should go first? I mean, what's your movie? What's your condiment?
Let's
Who
do
ranks what?
let's do Independence Day first. How about that?
Sure. Independence Day. Oh, you're going first?
Yeah, go first. Go ahead.
I mean, because Independence Day was my movie, right?
That's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to flip the script now. Yeah. So performance. What can I say? What can I say? I don't know. Did anyone perform well? Maybe not. So I gave it a 70.
Ooh, wow.
But it was okay. The performances. The difference is between our rankings, if you really like break it down, we have 6 overarching themes, whereas critics of Rotten Tomatoes are giving a percentage of automatically their overall totality, or however they calculate it, and those get averaged out. We just have 2. So if we had another like 50 critics, maybe these numbers are higher ultimately, because I think some of the movies we critique, I've thought about this, of course, largely over the last week, are going to have lower numbers than I would say other movies. And I don't think you can even compare our numbers to the movies we're discussing now. The two, I don't think you can compare them. And I don't think you can compare, let's say, like The Shining to Jaws, for example, because we are quite literally objectifying it by 6 points: performance, quote, score, editing, screenplay, directing, for which there is a number associated with each, and performance is the highest. That's 30%. That's the acting. Without the acting, what do you have? But like, it's hard to. These are the numbers that I gave, and that's what I would have provided here. So anyway, long story.
It's okay. This is for me. I'm judging this performance on not just like quote unquote like acting best actor bullshit or anything like that, but this is like Will Smith's coming out party. This is like his. Yeah, he had Bad Boys prior to this, but this is what turned him into a megawatt household name. I'm giving it a 90.
I don't even know what to say. I feel like this has now become a bit. It's yeah. I mean, there's certainly nuance in life. I think objectivity is definitely not nuanced though, and it's out the window. So there was a bunch of quotes, nothing like important. They're all just like quick witted, like off the cuff. I gave it an 80. They're fun.
Okay,
they're fun.
Fun quotes.
Yeah,
popcorn film. But I love it. Some of these things that just stick in your head, like Randy Quaid going up into the ship and saying, "I'm back."
Yeah.
Welcome to Earth. Earth with an F.
Thanks.
Fantastic. 90 again.
The best. The best score, I should say. I gave it an 83. I actually like, again, anytime a movie sets me with a feeling, I'll generally score it a little higher than what it is. But I enjoyed the music throughout.
Yeah, this score was great.
And including sound effects as well.
Yeah, sound effects. I love the score. I was actually again playing it on Spotify this morning. Thought did a great job. I think it got nominated. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head, but I gave it a 95.
I don't really believe this anymore. So the editing, I try to actually to objectively review the editing while watching the film. And I'm just strictly dialing into the editing. I gave it a 74, but like, I didn't think it was neither here nor there. I did like the use of models, but that would even be like a secondary category, or the 7th category here, which we should probably add for movies such as this, like special effects and or cartoons or like live action films or something along those lines where we needed probably a different category, which I think would be useful in this essence. I think it would lower your scores on everything else because you wouldn't be able to be nuanced, and it would more objectively analyze the movie itself. But I gave it a 74 in the editing.
Okay, yeah, I thought the editing was above average. I think it did well, telling these stories from. I guess there was like 3 or 4 different separate stories coming together, but I think it did really well with the action sequences as well, kind of knowing the space of like where the fighter pilots were and things like that. I gave it an 85.
I spelled Independence Day wrong on. I would imagine it's wrong on yours too. I was correcting that. I was like, why is it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no worries. I'm not gonna ding it for that.
Screenplay and writing. While I have inputted my score, I do actually want to change this. I gave it a 78, but like I actually enjoy this movie, but like the writing I'm going to keep it as is because the performance is kind of similar, but I think the screenplay and writing was fun. This got written in like a day. It was just like the turnaround was crazy. They filmed it in like a month or less. I'm exaggerating, but like for a big blockbuster film, I think it was like 72 days or something like that, 74. And like from start to finish, and the script was written immediately. The second it was finished, the next day it was bought. 3 days later, like past the weekend, they started pre-production. That's
crazy.
That quick, which is just unreal in this frame. But nonetheless, 78.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought this is one of my favorite disaster movies of all time. I know there's a lot of them, but I think the screenplay is not perfect, but it does the job of what a summer blockbuster should do. I give it an 80.
Cool. And then directing, I gave a 78. I didn't notice. I don't think it. I think this is going to be like not counterintuitive, but like oxymoronic. I didn't notice any of the directing. Like there was no shot that I was like, "Wow, that's pretty good." Ever. Like the whole. I mean, maybe the White House shot,
or like the White House,
the shot of I'm back, motherfuckers, like that. There wasn't like a directing shot per se. Like mise en scene was interesting throughout. I wouldn't say it was great, but I just gave it a 76. I thought it below average, to be abundantly clear.
Okay. Yeah, I thought the directing was solid. I think a little bit more restraint in the idea of like what Steven Spielberg did with Jaws was not showing the shark. They could have done that as well with this movie. Like they opened with the big mothership flying to Earth, and you see the big shadow, and they should have just left it at that. Then they show the reveal of the big ship, but I think it would have been better suited if they revealed it a little bit later.
That's really good. That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Yeah, I like that.
Some of those choices would have been better, but I thought overall, like having the model sets and exploding and things like that, I think it was a solid job of directing. I gave it an 85.
Okay, what's your total score for Independence Day?
Independence Day gets an 87 from me.
So you think a little bit higher than Day was better than Clerks?
Yeah, I do.
Wow. It's really funny that you get what I would consider the short end of the movie stick, but you inversely thought it, and now you score it higher, which aids to my objectivity facts pattern yet again. I know there is.
Are you using a Jedi mind trick on me, John?
Not at all. I just know that something is awry, and I definitely point it out when I see it. Jaws, man, terrific movie. I think the totality, I'll take it. The totality of this movie, like Paramount, it launched Spielberg's career, and even I'm not even speaking to that side, which doesn't affect my scores here, at least. I mean, it's a greatly played out movie. The dolly shots are unbelievably fantastic. The shots underwater, although I think the one with them using real sharks was a bad choice. Looking back, maybe it was good in the moment because like how many like documentary David Attenborough wasn't existing talking underwater about sharks at that moment, but like, so I probably have to put a pin in that, but I gave it an 85 in terms of performance. I think across the board, so many of the actors and actresses put in great, excellent performances. I mean, if anything, I could actually go higher on this, but I gave it an 85.
Okay, yeah, and
Very consistent.
I go back to just that Robert Shaw performance. I think they had some other choices in actors, but I think finding him was perfectly cast and just perfectly suited for him. And he just, I couldn't imagine him in any other
Yeah.
role, but this was made for him.
The three main, I couldn't imagine anyone else.
The three main, yeah, exactly. And Spielberg wanted to. His idea was to cast relatively like not megastars or well-known actors because he wanted the audience to feel like these were normal people, regular people, to add even more weight to what the film was. So that choice was great, but I gave it a 95.
It was good. Best quote. I have a 92 here. I would actually put this probably higher, but I probably thought through this and gave it a 92 for other reasons. But like one of the greatest quotes of all time, and varieties of quotes throughout. But in particular, I mean, we need a bigger boat. We need a bigger boat. It's just unbelievable. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of the top tier quotes for me, and just the idea that it was ad lib, but there's also, like you said, so many other great quotes in this film. But I gave it 100. It's top tier.
Score. I mean, I don't know much better than this. 97. I mean, it's just I don't know what else to say. I mean, this is like one of the best scores of all time. Full stop.
When a score can be when it enters the motif of being parodied, that's when you know it's got like it's one of the biggest and best of all time when people can start making fun of it. And they do that with this theme and a lot of other things, whether it's The Simpsons or anything like that. But John Williams, it's not just the Jaws dun score, but it's like also he has this other score that's like this adventure time score, like this, like they're going off into an adventure. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
And it just lends to the tone of the movie in both ways, the deep, dark, and the adventure time kind of way. So I give it 100. It's just one of the best of all time.
Wow. So editing, interestingly, I mean, I maybe I'm thinking about this too harshly, but I gave it an 85. I just didn't and I think it's a little too harshly. I mean, the editing and actual using a shark that has been created in underwater shots, and also like the variety of the background noise of what they had to actually go through. But I don't really like to. I mean, I will evaluate that, but I don't. I would prefer my best, of course, to not let that into my brain. So that's why I give it an 85. But yeah, I mean, it's what they had to deal with though is horrendous, and what film came from that to be able to edit together is a result. But 85 in general.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that even Spielberg at the end of the shoot said, I just made a horrible movie. Like, this is going to ruin my career. But then able to like piece it together and make this one of the all-time classics, speaks to just not the way that he just shot it, but the way that they actually got it and put it together, is a monumental task. I give it a 95.
The screenplay and writing, I think the performance was about equally as the same. The quote and score, directing I think better, but it was similar to the editing. Was 86.
I thought the screenplay writing was amazing in the sense that they did a lot with a little, meaning they created these characters, not through telling you who they are or anything like that, but like setting these set pieces and scenes and them talking together and drinking together and showing their scars and all of that adds up. I give it a 95.
And then directing, I think Spielberg did a fantastic job. I don't consider the fact that this is his first real movie or directorial whatever. But I gave it a 90. I mean, I think he has directed better movies in the future, but it's overall the directing specifically that he chose and the shot selection, awesome. I mean, a 90 to me is like, you're hitting 90s, which 88.1 is the average for all my scores. It's a terrific movie. It's well above average.
Fantastic. This could be, and again, I'm not trying to sit on a white picket fence, but this could be Spielberg's best movie, and I'm willing to put it definitely in the top 5.
Well, yeah,
but
easily.
I think the craft that went into this and the choices that he made, and directing isn't just doing things behind the camera, but it's the decision to film on the open ocean, the decision to have it feel more like an Alfred Hitchcock movie by not showing the shark, whether that's due to the shark not being ready and malfunctioning, but able to make those decisions. The decision to, be restrained in some of the choices is just amazing. 100.
I mean, he also used underwater footage of a shark that clearly out of
but I didn't notice that.
It was so evidently hilarious to me. It was like, that's really funny. And the underwater shots, and generally, I mean, I don't think maybe underwater cameras at the time were like as great as they are now, or like the contraptions around them. But you could buy simple things like an iPhone camera that could shoot better, of course. But that's neither here nor there. But the some of the choices could have been better, I thought. But 88.1 for me.
Cool. And 97 for me.
75.5 for Independence Day.
Wow. That's like
I would put it up
Mortal
That
Kombat.
was
level.
67 for me, I think. I think it's like Con Air, The Rock. It was the popcorn movies. They're all the same. I would say Con Air a little worse. Performance definitely worse on that perspective, but overall, yeah, it's better than Con Air. I would say very similar to The Rock. Both a blockbuster and performance and dialogue and pretty much across the board directing, editing. Yeah, The Rock.
What's on the docket for episode 24?
24, we have 24-hour movies. So movies that take place in a 24-hour period, whether that's a single day or whether that's a 24-hour period, for which I have chosen La Haine, the French film, which I've been alleged to be cute, which is also alleged to a statement that I made to Stephen off air that we can't be too cute at the very beginning of this podcast. And I guess 24 episodes in, we're still too cute for each other. And so here we are. But I chose La Haine, one of the most, if not the most prolific French films of all time, black and white, in a 24-hour period for which it exists.
Excited to talk about that one. I am going with another classic director in Martin Scorsese with his 80s comedy slash I don't know. We'll get into describing it when we talk about it, but it's After Hours, a film that I discovered within the past year. Absolutely loved it and excited to talk about it.
I haven't gone down the Scorsese road because I've never, first of all, like the directing, talking about directing is not just camera work, clearly. But his work with Bob over the years and like how he's allows people to kind of open up and chew on the scene to some extent and work with him and like the way he frames things, I think is so excellently. He's a fantastic director. But with that said, and for some reason I've never gone down the path of seeing all of his movies. I've seen, of course, the hits, but I've never heard of After Hours, and I've never even watched it. I mean, I didn't have to say the second part, but I've never heard of After Hours. So, like, I don't know what I'm getting into. So this is number 3 or 4 for me.
I'm excited about that.
Absolutely.
This is what makes me excited, is getting to see you talk about a film that you might love, you might be indifferent, and you might not like. I don't know where you're going to go with this one, but I'm excited to at least
you seem like you need more exciting things in your life. That's what it seems. And I've got a fucking mess to clean up. It's I don't know how. I really don't know how. It's sticking to just the walls. Like they look just like this. They're sticking to the wall.
I think we should start a tradition where you open every episode with one of those.
No, no, it's not going to happen. But anyway, thank you. By the way, we go by Scene Weekly now, not Mise en Scene Weekly. It's easier, cleaner, rolls off the tongue, and I don't know what we're doing for 2 hours and 14 minutes, but here we are.
Here we go.